Are you asking the right questions? Have you heard the whole story? Have you looked beyond the surface? What have you yet to see? Have you seen the new findings? Have the new numbers changed what you believed? Is there more beneath the silence than the answers you had received? Are you asking the right questions? Can you see the new evidence? Have you paused to question what the plan was built upon? Are you considering every option before more life is taken? Shouldn't certainty be a must? Are you asking the right questions? Is the disparity in the counts enough to call a stop? Before there's no turning back, before more life is taken. Do you know why these valleys became our home? Have you watched us drink from the mountain streams? Have you seen the paths our mothers taught us? Have you asked what we gave back to these mountains? Have you considered every alternative? Do you think protection and compassion can walk this mountain path together before the wind carries only our silence? Before our ghosts walk these mountain trails? Could you lead us to a better way, where every question is answered with honesty and transparency, where every option has been explored before the wind carries only our silence? Before it is too late, could you lead us to a better way? Lead us to a better way. Lead us to a better way.
Good morning. Oh well, the Victorian government's just issued 12 fines to farmers for denying access. I think this is going to be absolute bitter slog 'em out war. They arrested some farmers not that long ago, two farmers at least that I know of, put them in prison and released them without charge. I think the tensions and the pressure in rural Australia are growing, and this crazy lunatic left Victorian government run by Ben Carroll now, he can show his true colours and change the ways of the old. But no, he's going down exactly the same pathway. These lunatic communist lefties, absolutely un-Australian, not worth the paper they're written on. I think we've got to stand together as farmers. We've got to stand up for what's right. Good people stand up to bad government policy, and this is bad government policy. It's not just bad policy, but it's also bad process. The process with which government has gone through is bad luck. We're coming through regardless. We can do an EES, that's approved. We do anything else, it's approved. The cumulative impacts of transmission lines and renewable builds is not to be considered. That is absolutely ridiculous. The landscape of rural and regional Australia is going to be totally decimated and destroyed. This is the wrong policy, it's the wrong procedure, and this government's way off beam, and we absolutely have to stand together and work together. If farmers all work together, there is no way a city-based lunatic left government can push their own ideas out into the bush. There are, of course, some people who have gone for the quick bucks. They're going to become government puppets. Now, that is particularly sad. They see the money in it for themselves. They're probably not particularly aligned to this lunatic left, crazy communist government, but they're going to take their money anyway. And the government's saying, these are the easy ones. All we got to do is offer them a few crumbs from the table and they'll bend over. This is crazy stuff. Renewable Energy Alliance is made up of farmers that think only about themselves, their own positions, not what's in the best interest of Australia and what's in the best interest of the community. Thank you very much. It's Ross Johns here from the Wimmera Mallee Environmental and Agricultural Protection Association. Enjoy your day.
And a very good morning. It's just after 10 after 7. It's a Monday, Tuesday. It's a Sunday. Well, no, it's not. I'm just joshing. It's Tuesday. It's Thursday. Okay. Time flies though when you're having fun, and I am having fun. I just wish I didn't like to sleep in. You know, that pillow and I, we do have this connection. Anyway, and then I get up, have my ears pop, I have a shower, and then shave too, by the way. And then the cat, he doesn't mind getting up early, purring away, just loving it. And the other 429 cats are outside wondering why can't I get that love and attention. Anyway, as I have a bit of a, excuse me, a bit of a frog in the throat. Some of the news, making news around the country today, and by the way, the Ben Carroll, it's just another Labor politician. Can't trust him, can you? Look at all the states. Oh, they're just dreadful. The Labor Party are just dreadful as his eye becomes very emotional. And it's the left eye too, so the left part of me is very emotional about the left. Not really. Anyway, I think there's going to be a real awakening soon. We need that too. We do. We need to tell the politicians. We need to tell those that have zero support except from within their own cabal. We do need to tell them to bugger off. If you're a farmer on the land, by the way, we are changing our name next week, but we're going to ramp up what we're doing. You're getting, as they would say, you're getting the bum steer, aren't you, if you're a farmer? Got to fix that. Just treat each other with respect. It's not one way. The government got to understand that what's happening is just appalling. You don't treat farmers this way. You don't treat people this way. Then you got the horses. What a heap of claptrap that is. Absolute BS lies. And so we do have to take the country back. I'm not too sure about the LNP, by the way. Someone has said, same policy, different face. Who knows? But at the moment, we have to take back our country and show some respect. Now, back to what's making news around the country. Duxton Farms insist its South Australian orchard sale remains on track, says it's apples, despite the buyer's director having 8 New Zealand companies in receivership. Yeah, things are fine. Could you lend us a couple of billion? Canola and grain prices have tumbled this week, with non-GM canola in the Geelong port zone falling $63 a tonne as crude oil volatility rattles global commodity markets. Knock, knock. Who's there? Oil. Oil who? There's none left. Just when you thought you finally figured out what you could, now this is very serious, please take note if you've got a four-legged canine, doggy. The WA government, just when you thought you finally figured out what you could put in your green FOGO bin, I think it's FOGO, F-O-G-O bin, WA has changed its rules, excluding previously allowed items, including pet poo, tea bags and pizza boxes. So there you are. No more putting in your FOGO or FOGO bin pet poo. Where do you put it? Stupid. Probably flush it down the toilet. We do. We flush our little girls, well, one of them down the toilet. Yeah, it gets an old battering that toilet, let me tell you. What do they call it in the bush? A dunny. They were terrible things too. Now, Jetstar will make massive changes to what bags you can bring on board next year, scrapping the free 7-kilo carry-on. Now, instead, the Aussie budget airline will allow only a small under-seat bag, 1 inch by 1 inch, for free and charge customers at least $25 on some routes, over $50, to bring a bigger bag for the overhead lockers. And they're saying that this will make Jetstar, or the Qantas Group, whatever they call themselves, make them an extra $662 million a year. Incredible. I mean, that's what budget carriers are. You've got to pay for everything. What about Ryanair? No, I'm not related, but what about Ryanair? You've got to pay to use the toilet. I just stand in the corner. It's terrible. Wind the window down. Maybe not. Anyway, this is the Country Telegraph, soon to be the Pulse. And finding out what's happening around the country weather-wise, let's cross to the Bureau of Meteorology.
Queensland, a frosty start inland and patchy foggy in the east, but otherwise looking like a dry day. We could see a few light showers across exposed coastal areas, making their way up towards the tropical north, but not expecting any significant falls in that. Otherwise, with a bit of high cloud, temperatures remaining close to average for this time of year. For Brisbane, partly cloudy, top of 24 degrees, dry and sunny up in Cairns with a maximum of 27. Now to New South Wales, we'll see some patchy fog and frost through inland areas, and it will be a mostly sunny day to follow along the coast and also in the north of the state. A bit of cloud across southern parts of the state though, with some isolated showers across the southwestern slopes, but we're not expecting any alpine snow at all. Otherwise, looking at temperatures close to average for this time of year. Sydney, a sunny day with light winds, maximum of 18 degrees. Frosty in Canberra to start, and then warming up to a partly cloudy top of 14 degrees. Now to Victoria, we will see patchy fog and frost north of the Divide to start with. That will clear to a partly cloudy day, but under cloud we could see a few light showers, mostly about the northeast of the state, and then into the evening as that trough approaches, showers building across the west and also through the southwest, but generally looking at falls of less than about 2 millimetres or so. Otherwise, temperatures looking cool to mild for this time of year. Melbourne partly cloudy, slight chance of a shower into the evening with a top of 15 degrees. Partly cloudy but mostly dry up in Mildura with a maximum of 18. Now to Tasmania, with clear skies overnight, we will see patchy fog and also frost. That will clear to a mostly dry day, but showers will build from the west as that trough approaches, reaching the coast into the afternoon, and then moving onto the north coast as we head into the evening. We could see up to 10 millimetres or so, with higher isolated falls around elevated areas, but it will be a mostly dry day along the east coast. So for Hobart, partly cloudy, but we could see a slight chance of a light shower into the evening, top of 15 degrees, and 14s across the board for northern parts of Tasmania. Now across to South Australia, we'll see some patchy fog along the coast in the morning, then showers will move from the Eyre Peninsula and down towards the southeast of the state through the day. Could see up to about 5 millimetres or so, but they'll mostly clear away into the evening. Temperatures will be a little bit cooler though, with behind that trough they'll swing around to a bit more colder southwesterly. So Adelaide 17 degrees, slight chance of a shower or two, but it will be mostly dry in the north of the state, reaching up into the mid-20s. Now to Western Australia, we will see some showers across the goldfields. They'll move down towards the Esperance coast through the day. Quite patchy totals overall, but we could see up to about 10 millimetres through some areas. And then into the afternoon, showers build across the southwest capes. Head of that trough and cold front, we will see those showers building as well as isolated thunderstorms, but they will reach Perth closer towards midnight and more likely into Friday. But we could see just some moderate falls along parts of the Albany coast. Further north, it is remaining cloudy across northwestern parts of the state. Patchy showers are possible across parts of the Gascoyne. Otherwise, with those northeasterly winds, temperatures a little bit on the milder side. So Perth, possible late shower, top of 20 degrees, otherwise reaching the high 20s to low 30s across the Pilbara. Finally, across northern Australia, not much change compared to the last few days. We could see a few very light showers touching across the Tiwi Islands. Otherwise, with dry east to southeasterly winds, we are looking at a sunny day, but with high fire danger across parts of the Darwin area. So 32 degrees in Darwin with sunny conditions, reaching the low 30s across into the Kimberley.
How should we meet the challenge of managing wild horse populations? Hello, I'm Wayne Linklater, and Professor of Environmental Studies and author of the new book, Wild Horses of the Last Land. Learning about ourselves and nature from the Kaimanawa wild horses. Frankly, how we currently manage populations of wild horses is counterproductive. But it doesn't have to be that way. If we would lean more heavily, more fully into what we know about the ecology and behaviour of wild horses, we could design a scheme for managing their populations that is more effective, efficient, and yes, humane. I would argue more ethical. If you want to know more, see the last section of my new book titled Conservation. I'll see you on the other side.
Now, welcome back to the Country Telegraph, as I keep saying, soon to be the Pulse, and a lot more programming too. We're just, we just adding extra hours to our day. I mean, what's sleep anyway? By the way, the town behind me is one of God's little secrets to many, unless you're on the northern New South coast or in Queensland for that matter. That's Bangalore. And Bangalore is truly a just magnificent part of the world. So to those in Bangalore that are rubbing their eyes and going, oh, I've got to get up, or those that have been for their 10-kilometre run or a bit further to Byron and back again, Byron Bay that is, for those, we just call it Byron. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for being part of the program. Don't forget to let your friends and family know about us, and then they can write such lovely things about us. No, just joking. Paraquat, the government, farmers, I see some farmers are still wanting paraquat. Paraquat it's a deadly pesticide, isn't it? It's dreadful. I'm going to play this. This will explain why we should not use paraquat. We should not use Roundup because of the glyphosates in it. We played a guy yesterday, I might play him again later today if I have time, explaining how bad Roundup is. He's got stage 4 cancer because of Roundup and the glyphosate. So more on that later. This is, by the way, the Country Telegraph.
For decades, a powerful pesticide has been a quiet force in American agriculture. Farmers spray it on their fields where they grow wheat, cotton, and other crops as a way to quickly kill weeds. But scientists are increasingly warning farmers that the chemical they've come to rely on may actually be killing them. The chemical is called paraquat, and it's now at the center of one of the biggest environmental health battles in the country. Thousands of farmers who used paraquat say the exposure caused them to develop Parkinson's disease, a devastating, incurable neurological disorder. They claim the Chinese-owned company behind it, Syngenta, knew the risks for years and worked behind the scenes to bury the research connecting paraquat to Parkinson's. More than 8,000 lawsuits have been filed across the United States. I spoke with Amy Wagstaff, an attorney representing paraquat plaintiffs.
They're alleging that Syngenta and Chevron knew that paraquat could get into your bloodstream and go to your brain, and that they knew that it was a neurotoxin, and they did nothing to prevent that, and they did not warn about it. Anytime a chemical company knows of the danger of something and they don't do anything to stop it, and they certainly don't warn, or they don't enforce wearing PPEs and things of that nature, I think the juries will find that very egregious.
Internal company files obtained by the new lead show as far back as 1975, corporate insiders were aware of the potential risks. They called paraquat's long-term effects a quite terrible problem. The documents reveal that Syngenta has spent the last several decades working to protect their paraquat profits, silence critics, and influence regulators.
A manufacturer of paraquat had done its own laboratory experiments exposing mice, rats, and rabbits to paraquat, and those exposures led to features of the disease, including tremor. These experiments, though, weren't done in the 1990s when academics were doing them. These experiments, according to reporting from The Guardian, were done in the 1960s, a generation before academics had reached the same conclusion.
Among other tactics, the company developed a SWAT team strategy to undermine any science that showed links between paraquat and Parkinson's disease. The record shows Syngenta even worked behind the scenes to block a respected scientist from joining an Environmental Protection Agency advisory panel, and took steps to ensure its role in blocking that scientist wouldn't be traced.
The vast majority of individuals, 85+% of individuals in large portions of the world, carry no known genetic cause or genetic risk factor for the disease. The principal causes of Parkinson's disease, therefore, do not lie within us. They are not in our DNA. They are not in our cells. They lie outside of us in our environment. And paraquat and other pesticides and other chemicals that damage the energy-producing parts of nerve cells, the mitochondria, which are enriched in the cells that are damaged and die off in Parkinson's disease, are likely to blame.
As the disease progresses and the brain degenerates, people with the disease can suffer tremors, loss of balance and movement, difficulty speaking and swallowing, cognitive decline, and ultimately death. Today, Parkinson's is one of the fastest growing neurological disorders on the planet. Its prevalence has more than doubled in 30 years. Each year, about 90,000 Americans are diagnosed. Larry Wiles, a Pennsylvania farmer who used paraquat for years, is one of many farmers who have been diagnosed with Parkinson's.
I would pull in here with a tractor and a sprayer. We would spray paraquat on here to kill all the vegetation. I think paraquat came on the shelves in the early 60s. And my dad was the first in the area to use it. And we used it freely from then on for years. And then I bought my own farm right down the road here, and I used it. And I would say just in the last year have I recognized that it was the cause of my Parkinson's.
Syngenta denies that paraquat causes Parkinson's disease, and the company says it has over 1,000 studies that support its position. so far it has avoided facing a jury because of settlements or delays, moving instead toward a mass financial settlement as trial dates in 2026 loom. I spoke with Feldelma Fitzpatrick, one of the lawyers representing plaintiffs, to learn more about the legal battle.
When those Syngenta papers became public and it became much more widely understood, not only what was happening scientifically, but what these companies actually knew. They actually knew what they were doing. That's really what spawned the renewed interest in the litigation, as well as just, developing science that is going on. So it kind of became that perfect storm. We were supposed to have had 4 trials by now. We've had no trials. I don't believe the defendants want to go to trial. I don't think that they have any interest in the world knowing what it is that they did and the absolute callous disregard they had for these clients.
As the debate grows louder, many plaintiffs are dying before they ever see their day in court.
The issue is this is a progressive disease. So if I file a case today of someone who's newly diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and they can't get to trial for 4 or 5 years, there's a substantial likelihood that they are not going to be able to fully participate in their trial. Parkinson's affects your ability to communicate. And because of that, the longer that you go between filing a lawsuit and actually getting your deposition taken, your ability to tell your story is just greatly compromised.
Almost all paraquat sprayed in the U.S. is imported from China and the United Kingdom. A grand irony, as both countries have already banned it on their own soil. One report put it bluntly: the health and environmental harms of paraquat will be felt in U.S. communities for generations as profits flow to a foreign-owned mega conglomerate. Dozens of countries around the world have banned paraquat, but it remains legal in the United States. The Environmental Protection Agency says the evidence isn't clear enough to ban it and has pushed for a final decision to 2026 to seek more data. Lawmakers, health groups, and advocate organizations like the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research are urging a ban, citing studies showing paraquat can raise Parkinson's risk by up to 500%.
Parkinson's is on the rise. It's the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease in the world. We started our journey on paraquat about 7 or 8 years ago at the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And when I learned of the connection between exposure to this chemical and Parkinson's, I immediately thought, well, this is something we can do something about. The more I dug into paraquat and the more I learned about paraquat, there were a lot of things that were surprising. It was surprising to find out that nearly 70 other countries have banned it, but the United States hasn't. But one of the shocking things is that paraquat is banned on golf courses. So the golfers are protected, the golf course workers are protected, yet we use it on crops all over the United States. When I learned that this is a disease that could possibly be prevented, that to me is a public policy question. And so we've worked so hard over the past several years submitting dozens upon dozens of scientific studies to the EPA, a petition with over 100,000 signatures to the EPA. We've met with the EPA with patients that were exposed to paraquat.
For farmers who built their lives on the land, the fight over paraquat isn't about politics or abstract science. It's personal.
All you have to do is look at my life, and you can see what it can do to a person who spread those chemicals on the land. So I would say, please take a good look at it, and please find it within yourself to rid this horrible chemical off the shelves and stop the big companies from making it.
The knowledge that for decades we've poisoned the land, the air, the water, and the food that we live around. And because of that, because of all these chemicals that we've put into our system, there are diseases out there that are caused by these chemicals. And it's within our power to eliminate those diseases if we eliminate the triggers.
Now, isn't that interesting? Paraquat, dreadful, absolutely dreadful. Look at Roundup, We used to use it. In fact, when I lived on the land, my brother took over the family home. Bastard. Anyway, he got the family home because he was working on the land still. Massive lawn, beautiful. It was just one of those gorgeous rural settings. Anyway, the lawn used to take a bit of time to mow, especially at the end. Robbie could probably relate to this. At the end of the yard was the septic tank. The lawn there was very, very green, lush. The Ryans contributed to that magnificent lawn. Anyway, it used to take forever, and the lawnmower would sink into the grass, and because it was all spongy and stuff, because it was so healthy. And one day he said, "Oh, bugger it," and we had a look at the house about a month later after he said bugger it, and it was like the Sahara Desert. He got Roundup out and sprayed it, so he didn't have to mow the lawn. So one day his house looked like it was an English mansion. Next day it looked like it was just sitting outside of Cooper Beatty. But anyway, it was a transition that we weren't expecting. But Roundup is very, very dangerous, especially if you put it on your grass, on your lawn. Now, if you want to increase your bottom line, because Instant Polls is our official sponsor, and boost your communication with your frontline staff and gather valuable data from your most important resource, that's your employees, then you have to visit, and we had them on yesterday, Instantpolls.online to learn more. Instant polls are just fantastic for us anyway. We can attest to how good they are. This week's poll on the Country Telegraph is, do you believe government and environmental organisations provide accurate information about feral animals? We should also ask about feral. Why is that the in word when you want to get rid of an animal? Oh, it's feral. Oh, my wife. Maybe not. I won't go there. Anyway, just use the QR code on our screen to vote. She refers to me as being feral. No, we did love each other dearly. Each vote is secure, and I hope so. Each vote is secure and anonymous and verified by 2FA. You'll have a week to vote before the result is broadcast on the Country Telegraph, soon to be the polls after 8 a.m. next Monday. Now, the link will also be published on our Facebook page this morning. Share the link, ask your family and friends to participate. Coming up next, we'll talk to Robbie Caddo. No, not Robbie Caddo, Robbie Barwick. He'll be along, looking absolutely gorgeous today, I've got to tell you that. And he'll be here shortly to talk about, because, okay, there's two things that I've noticed this morning. One, the English cricket side have got Stephen Fleming, gave Brendan McCullum the heave-ho after Bazball failed miserably, much to our happiness here in Australia. Poor people, those English, isn't it sad that they got thumped by just about everybody? You got to play a straight bat, defence is very important. So Stephen Fleming, another New Zealander, is now the coach, and he is going to, terrible news. He wants Mr. Cricket, it's Mike Hussey, to also be part of his team for England. Could you imagine? I don't believe we should deport people, even if they are citizens, but Mike Hussey, if you dare go over to the Poms, pack your bags, never come back until you realise your mistake. Anyway, that's one thing. The other one is, I hear that Australia Post have an inkling. Such great people they are. They're so, they're the pillars of communities. Not. Anyway, they want to close a whole bunch of post offices, which have many ramifications. I'll play you this first, then we'll talk to the author of this, Robbie Barwick, here on the Country Telegraph.
All right, this is an emergency appeal to everybody to act this week to help save post offices, banking services and cash. Now, today's Monday. On Friday, the 7th of August, submissions close for the Senate inquiry into the Australia Post Retail Network. And that's an inquiry that's been called because a document leaked that showed Australia Post's intention to close hundreds, if not thousands, of branches and remodel itself as a glorified parcels business and get rid of these post offices that provide so many essential services. They provide essential postal services, they provide identification services, but they also provide banking services. And if you look at all the towns around Australia that have lost banks and suburbs, not just towns, that have lost banks over the last decade or two, the only place you can go to do basic banking is the post office. Also cash. The banks have been trying to force us cashless, and one of the ways they've done that is to close branches, rip out ATMs, and the one place you can go to get cash that has not reduced its availability is post offices. So this is a really crucial service, but it's one of those that you don't know what you got till it's gone. People sort of take it for granted. But Australia Post Management, by the way, who are the highest paid public employees in Australia, public because we own Australia Post, it's a government owned business, in other words owned by the people. The Australia Post Management have been running this service into the ground, gutting it to the bone, so that they can make a commercial profit and pay themselves bigger bonuses. This is do or die for the post offices, but they need the people of Australia to get behind them. So please make a submission before this Friday. We'll put a link to the inquiry website below, or you can just send a simple email to the inquiry website expressing your support for the services Australia post offices provide and your opposition to any closures of post offices. A submission can be as simple as that, but make a submission. This week we need to bombard it with hundreds, if not thousands of submissions so that politicians take this inquiry seriously and we can stop this travesty and save an essential public service.
Okay, the Citizens Party has been very active in drawing attention to decline in regional and rural services, especially in the regional and rural areas, and the need for private organisations to fulfil their social obligations, which is just not on. You don't have to make money out of everything you do. There's a thing called services. And by the way, you pay taxes, you expect something back for it. Not a, we'll increase your tax by $27,000, as I'm reading about the sneaky little bits and pieces they sneak in. And so if you have two people working, you've got to pay more because there are two people working. It doesn't make sense. You do that because you haven't got the money, not because you really want to. Anyway, banks, for example, operate under taxpayer protections, make an enormous profit. Oh, huge. And then cut their services. So why are they accelerating the closure of branches? It's the same with the post office, which most of us would claim is an essential service. We're going to talk today to Robbie Barwick, National Chairman of the Australian Citizens Party. He is the party's media spokesman and front person. He looks great. Today he looks even absolutely gorgeous. He's contributor to the Australian Alert magazine and presenter of the Emmy Award show called The Citizens Report. Robbie, I've told a few fibs there, but it makes you sound great. How the hell are you?
I'm good, Mike. Just a quick update on what you've said. We've just renamed our Emmy Award-winning Citizens Report the Australian Alert Podcast. So you can still find that on YouTube. But yeah, we've rebadged in anticipation of our merger into the Australian People's Party.
Oh, when's that happening? It's a bit like Gone with the Wind. It's going on and on.
No, well, what we're waiting for is the name to be approved. So this Monday this week, the Electoral Commission started publishing the name. So it's open for objections. People can object to our name. And that takes a month. And after that month is up, if there's no objections, then we should have it a week after that. Have it confirmed. So that's the official finalisation of the merger. But for all intents and purposes, we're functioning as a merged party now.
Fantastic. The old saying, the check's in the mail. Very well might be, but it doesn't mean you'll get it. Tell me about the Australia Post, and they're being very sneaky because tomorrow is the last day which we can voice our opinion or our dissent on their proposal to do terrible things to the postal service. It won't be a postal service. think someone, I think even you mentioned it, it'll end up being just a parcel service.
Yep. Well, not even a service, a business. I'm someone who thinks Qantas should be forced to change its name, because the S in Qantas stands for service, and that's definitely not a service anymore. That's a business. Should be called Quantob, and they're going to do the same with Australia Post. Just before I get into the detail, just to emphasise, if people watch that clip I just did, please make a submission. The easiest way is just Google Senate inquiry into Australia Post Retail Network, and you'll find an email there, or ec.sen@aph.gov.au. You can just send an email, express your support for post offices, and demand the government stop Australia Post management from closing them. It can be just as simple as that. If you've got more to say, please say more. Make it personal. Because one of the reasons we're emphasising that is because it's good to get an inquiry up, and I really support the inquiry process in Parliament. I think it's the best thing Parliament does, but not all inquiries are equal. And so the first step to getting Parliament to take the inquiry seriously is to make sure it's got a lot of public engagement. And they count those and they publish those numbers. They'll say how many submissions they've received. They'll say how many letters they've received that they count as correspondence. And if politicians in the building see that there's, say around or over 1,000 or more, they'll go, oh, this is serious, right? And it's actually one of the reasons, Mike, a couple of years ago, you remember we mis- and disinformation bill, that was at the end round, because the Senate inquiry process part of that bill, I think it broke all records for submissions, right? So please, before I go on further, when you're hearing what I'm saying, just organise yourself to make a submission before tomorrow. Now, the bottom line is that we've got a postal service that is required by law to operate commercially, but both the management of Australia Post and the government have interpreted that to say operate independently, and that's not the same thing, because no business in the world, Mike, is independent of its shareholders that are represented by the board of a corporation, right? And it's the board that the executives have to be accountable to. And in this case, we, the Australian people, are the shareholders. We are represented through two ministers of the government, the communications minister and the finance minister. And they are the shareholder ministers who communicate with the board of Australia Post. And so if you approached any politician in Parliament individually of all parties and say, should Australia Post be closing post offices? They'll say, no, definitely not. Especially when it's in their electorates. They really hate it. If there's a post office closed in their electorates, they're the first to scream about it. But when you say to them, well, why are you letting, the government, why are you letting Australia Post management do this? They say, oh, Australia Post operates commercially. No, that's not good enough. This is fundamentally a service. It should make a profit, but its goal in making a profit should be to cover the cost of providing the service, not to make a huge profit that can justify big bonuses for the already highest paid public employees in Australia. Paul Graham, the CEO, got $3.3 million last year for running Australia Post into the ground, for closing 100 post offices, right, ripping the rug out from under 100 communities around Australia. And because that action resulted in a minor profit, he got his pay and a massive bonus. And his 8 executives all got their pay, which is close to $1 million, and then a massive bonus. So they all got between $1.6 and $1.8 million each last year for cutting our postal service to the bone. And the worst part about all this is people may, if you don't know, I'll tell you, but you already may know, there's 2/3 of post offices in Australia, including most of the ones in regional Australia, are small businesses, right? So it's mums and dads running the post office. They have bought a license. They have invested their own money to buy a license to run the post office and provide our postal services as a small business. Collectively, these licensees have put in about $3 billion. They are the biggest direct stakeholders in Australia Post, right? They've got skin in the game. They want to provide this service to us. And as part of what Australia Post is doing, is it's squeezing the income on those licensees and essentially forcing them out of business, because what it's trying to achieve a massive reduction in the number of post offices in Australia. There's a law that says there has to be 4,000. That's in law, and that's been in law for 30 years. So when Paul Graham took over, the first thing he said was, well, if that's the minimum, we're going to reduce the number of post offices to the minimum. So he took over and there was 4,320 post offices, and he has closed 200 already, and he's determined to close the rest to get it down to 4,000. But he's been lobbying the government to change the law to reduce that minimum. Now, the government hasn't said they'll do that because they know that would be very controversial and then they'll get the blame. But what they're letting him do is when these licensed post offices, either they get the owners get too old and they want to retire, but no one wants to buy the license off them because they're not profitable enough, or they just go broke, he is replacing them with not another post office, but like a parcels agent or a glorified parcels locker, and then claiming that still counts as a post office for the minimum of 4,000. Right, and every town who's lost the post office knows what I'm talking about. It's a terrible thing to do, especially, and there's hundreds of towns, Mike, that have already lost banking services. The post office is the only place they can do banking. The banks, when they closed their branches, said go bank at the post office. The government let the banks do that, and now the government is letting Australia Post take away the post office. It is criminal, and the Australian people have to arc up about it.
Who would, just as a thought, who would buy a business having a partner as the Australian federal government? I mean, surely you might want to go broke.
No, good question, but I can tell you, at first, a lot of people did thinking, how could you go broke if you're in business with the government? What they then discovered was you do go broke if you're in business with the government, right? It shocked all these licensees around Australia.
So what happens? Okay, say they get the wish and they close all these. I mean, by the way, it's not going to affect a whole lot those in the major markets, and that's where the majority of the votes come from. In the bush, it was about 20% or something, maybe not even that. So if you, which they're being smashed around their head at the moment, for those, the other 80%, they're either not aware or don't give a rat's about it. So what happens then to these communities that haven't got a bank? If you're a business, you need to, especially if you're dealing cash or money over the counter, if there's no bank, no post office, and you can't even send notes to people who owe you money because you haven't got a post office. Could you imagine that red, whatever the yellow, what do they have colour it is now, that letterbox? It will be collected every month.
Yeah, that's right.
But what happens though to those communities? You cannot not have a bank. I mean, we were in Tumbarumba last weekend, and they didn't have a pub for 15 months. Can you imagine? Yeah. But they do have a post office. But these communities, if they don't have the essential services, and I think a pub really is very important for a small town, if they don't have these essential services, they just fold.
Well, that is what happens. They wither and die on the vine. Initially the first thing that goes is the bank, and then people have to either use the post office, but they can only get cash from the post office essentially. Actually, when Coober Pedy lost its bank, the Westpac branch in Coober Pedy in 2023, the local council there asked the bank, Westpac, to provide a comparison list between what services are available at a bank branch versus the post office. And there's about 40 services available at a bank branch, financial services, of which only about 6 are available at the post office, right? So it's a very much a cut down service. So you can do a little bit at your post office, and thank God for them, but then for most of your banking, you've got to go away. And then what happens is people take their commerce away as well. If you go to that bigger town, there's bigger and better supermarkets and shopping centres, etc., to bank in, right? And so money starts leaving the town, and then that's why the pub gets in trouble, right? Because there's less money around for the local pub, for that discretionary spending at the pub and the social stuff that goes on at a pub. And then if the post office goes, then that is the death knell of the town. These things are going to turn into ghost towns. And it's not just in regional Australia, Mike. Now, I live in the suburb of Glenroy in Melbourne. And that's like, it's not inner city, but it's certainly not outer suburban either, right? It's in the middle. The local post office here shut in 2022. it's now 2026. The small businesses in the Glenroy business district are still running a campaign to this day to get their post office back. The elderly, now you and I are at a certain age, and we like to think we're in control of our faculties, and we're probably adept to using our phones for a lot of things. But there'll come a time in 10 years, 20 years, maybe you a bit before me, where you will not feel confident using, if the confidence you feel now with digital technology, you will lose it. You will lose your confidence in yourself. You will want face-to-face service. And there's a lot of elderly and vulnerable people everywhere, including in the cities, that need that face-to-face service.
Yeah, I don't know about, first of all, many would disagree about me having my faculties. But I know they say that lovingly. But, can you tell me this? Okay, if they do get the wish list and move, because there's email. Email is just one function of a post office, or mail. By the way, they charge $5 for someone to send an email. $5 from the post office. Anyway, I thought that was quite bizarre.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost anything. But anyway, so if they then get rid of the post offices and you find that banking is not there, you see all that's happening with the transmission lines and the compulsory acquisition, all that sort of stuff of farms, and just the don't care attitude towards the rural and outback communities. Can you tell me why this is happening?
Yeah, well, it's started off as an obsession that governments had with privatisation. So they corporatized. You again, I don't want to pick on your age, Mike, but you probably do remember
You want to pick on my age.
The PMG, the Postmaster General's Department, right? And then you know how I'm talking about. and then that was split into its different components: telecom, Australia Post, etc. Right? And then they were corporatized, and then telecom was turned into Telstra and privatized.
Mm-hmm.
So in the case of
working.
That's right. In the case of Australia Post, it was corporatised in '89. And what they did is they partially privatised it through this licensed post office model. So they sold a lot of the individual post offices. And a lot of the people who bought them were actually long-term Australia Post employees who were comfortable with the idea of running a business that they knew. And it worked. Look, there's no problem with that model per se. It worked fine. One of the options for the government to actually, if they take responsibility again, is just to buy it all back and run it as a total government enterprise. But that's not quite necessary if you're prepared to do other things. And what they need to do is say to Australia Post, your profit is just to cover your costs. You're not there to make big profits. But this is what the mentality has built up over time, because successive CEOs of Australia Post, they thought, and they were colluding with government politicians of both parties. They thought, if we can show these are businesses that make a big profit, then we can privatize and everyone can have a payday, right? And consulting firms like Boston Consulting Group were in on this, etc. Now, the one CEO who objected to this approach was Christine Holgate. And if you look over my shoulder here, this is from it's looking a bit tatty now, but this is from a campaign in 2020, where we're the ones who got an inquiry into Scott Morrison sacking Christine Holgate, because she actually opposed the privatisation agenda, and she saw post offices as an asset and a competitive advantage. It's the single biggest retail footprint in Australia, and she said, no, we're not going to get rid of our post offices. That's what gives us a competitive advantage with the private sector. We're going to support our post offices. And she forced the banks to do a deal where they finally had to pay properly to be represented in post offices, and it actually saved Australia Post. It put them back on the path to basic profitability, and it made the post offices feasible. Scott Morrison got rid of her. I think he was one of the biggest stooges of the banks we've ever had as a Prime Minister. He got rid of her and then replaced her with this guy who's gone back to the approach of fattening the pig for slaughter, right? But not fattening, not in terms of making it a proper business that looks, but this is just the bottom line, right? Oh, look, this is a profitable business. Let's possibly sell it. And Australians hate privatisation now. We've had it for 30 years. We've looked at, what's privatisation given us? It's been a disaster, right? Here's the worst part, Mike. We hate being taxed. We're also the highest tax country in the world, pretty much. What the governments over the decades have privatised is those services that actually make them money and cover their costs. And when governments are providing services in a way that make money and cover their costs, they don't have to tax us to provide that service, right? They privatise those things, and then we're left with no assets, and we have to pay big money. Our party has put up a solution to this, which we've been advocating for a long time. The government should kill two birds, one stone, win-win. Solve the banking services problem and the postal problem. Start a public bank that is available in post offices, and they can have a revenue sharing arrangement with the post office that's distributed fairly to the licensees. That'll make the post offices viable. It's the cheapest way to roll out the bank. So everyone in Australia, there's over 4,000 post offices. Every community in Australia can have guaranteed access to banking services and cash, because Australia Post should take over the cash distribution as well. And that problem is solved for all time. And the revenue from that will actually support post offices. One of the models of this is Kiwi Bank in New Zealand, which started as a government bank in 2002 as a post office bank. For some stupid reason, the New Zealand Post sold it after 20 years in 2022 back to the government. And for the 20 years they had Kiwi Bank, New Zealand Post made a profit. Since they sold Kiwi Bank back to the government, New Zealand Post has made a loss for the last 3 years, because it's actually a very good model to combine postal services with banking services. We think that's one of the solutions for Australia Post, but the other solution is just the public making those submissions and demanding the government take responsibility for the post office and not allow these executives to get away with running our service into the ground.
Yeah, I think Australia is. I went to the Snowies again last weekend, and big drive through rural New South Wales, and it's very cold there. But you see that the rural community, those on the land, are so important to these towns and regional areas. If you take away, the government is plonking wind turbines and pine plantations all over the place, which means then that that property is as useless as they would say in the bush, as useless as tits on a bull, and that's what they say, and it's destroying. It's actually hurting a great part of Australia, which government does not care about at all. And the post office is just another example of their lack of respect for fellow Australians. Robbie, if somebody wants to find out more about your award-winning Emmy, the Best Ever in the Universe podcast, and how do they do that?
Well, you can follow me on most social media at some version of @RobbieBarwick. That particular clip that you played, Mike, that's got over 1 million views across all my platforms this week. It's really gone viral. So you might have already seen me this week when you get that many views. But this is a big subject, this post office subject. Citizensparty.org.au is our website, and you'll see when that gets changed to People's Party. And like I said, on YouTube now we're called the Australian Alert Podcast.
Be alert for the Australian Alert Podcast. But I have to say, you do a very, very good job, and you and Jared. I just was thinking, in the one corner you have the Labor Party, in the other corner the LNP. Where do you guys sit? Which side? You'd be in the middle, wouldn't you? Separating them and telling them to get some sort of let the grey matter start working better than it has been.
I think we're in the middle by default, because left and right, these things become just tribal labels, right? But we're just happy that the public is turning against the major parties. It's overdue, right? They should have turned against them years ago. I have to, but where our party is representing real economic solutions for Australia. We think you can unite all Australians around economic solutions. I'm a bit critical of our main competition, One Nation, for being a bit more divisive than that. And actually, I'm a bit worried this week because the news broke that Pauline Hanson's new Chief of Staff is a guy from the Australian Banking Association. So
What happened to Ashby?
He's moved on to run the party. So her chief of staff as a senator, the leader in the parliament, is from the Banking Association. I can tell you now that is a bad sign. If you want real change in Australia, you're not going to get it from someone endorsed by the Banking Association.
Someone needs to ask the big question. Please explain.
Please explain. Yep.
Anyway, I won't say any more because I'll probably get beaten up. Robbie, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Mike.
Next time too. This is the Country Telegraph. And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. Pack of bastards, aren't they? That's what I can use that because they use it in the bush. An ex-guest has probably had worse, and I won't do that because I'm a gentleman. Maybe not. Some would agree that I'm not, but I do have an opinion that this needs to stop right now. The killing of these beautiful creatures. Go hang your head in shame. That's just truly terrible what they're doing to them. Some of the news that's making news around the country. Duxton Farms insists its South Australian orchard sale remains on track despite the buyer's director having 8 New Zealand companies in receivership. Could you lend me a couple of billion, please? Canola and grain prices have tumbled this week, with non-GM canola in the Geelong port zone falling 63 smackaroonies a tonne as crude oil volatility rattles global commodity markets. Just when you thought you have finally figured out what you could put in your green bin. Now, Western Australia has changed its rules, excluding previously allowed items including mother-in-laws, tea bags, pet poo and pizza boxes. Jetstar will make massive changes to what bags you can bring on board next year, scrapping the free 7 kilo or kilogram carry-on. Instead, the Aussie budget airline will only allow a small under-the-seat bag, probably a centimetre by a centimetre, for free, because they don't give anything for free. They're a budget airline, so they're going to bust your budget. And also they're going to charge customers at least $25, and on some routes over $50 each way. So your cheap fare put on the extras, and even the food. We went to Hawaii on Jetstar. Never again. I'm going to buy a boat and row there. But that's Jetstar, and they're saying that Jetstar are saying in the Qantas group, oh, people will love this. they don't like it. And it will make that group an extra $662 million, which is incredible. It's $750 million basically going to make extra, charging you something that you weren't charged for before. So it's interesting. Now, Instant Polls, by the way, is our official sponsor. And absolutely fantastic. If you want to increase your bottom line, boost your communication with your frontline staff and gather valuable data from your most important resource, of course, that's your employees, then visit Instantpolls.online to learn more. Absolutely fantastic. We're running a poll at the moment. This week's poll on the Country Telegraph is, do you believe, brothers, government, put that brothers part in myself, do you believe government and environmental organisations provide accurate information about feral animals? Just go to the QR code on our screen to vote. Each vote is secure and anonymous and verified by 2FA. You'll have this two-factor authentication. That's what it is. You will have a week to vote before the result is broadcast on the Country Telegraph, soon to be the polls, after 8 a.m. next Monday. And the link will be published on our Facebook page. It's there already. Share the link, share the love, and share your opinion, and ask your family and friends to also participate. Okay, weather-wise, weekend just one day away. We must never mention that word, you like something you can't mention. Barbecue. Oh, mention barbecue. It's going to rain. You watch. Let's find out what really is happening weather-wise right across country here on the Country Telegraph.
Queensland, a frosty start inland and patchy foggy in the east, but otherwise looking like a dry day. We could see a few light showers across exposed coastal areas, making their way up towards the tropical north, but not expecting any significant falls in that. Otherwise, with a bit of high cloud, temperatures remaining close to average for this time of year. For Brisbane, partly cloudy, top of 24 degrees, dry and sunny up in Cairns with a maximum of 27. Now to New South Wales, we'll see some patchy fog and frost through inland areas, and it will be a mostly sunny day to follow along the coast and also in the north of the state. A bit of cloud across southern parts of the state though, with some isolated showers across the southwestern slopes, but we're not expecting any alpine snow at all. Otherwise, looking at temperatures close to average for this time of year. Sydney, a sunny day with light winds, maximum of 18 degrees. Frosty in Canberra to start, and then warming up to a partly cloudy top of 14 degrees. Now to Victoria, we will see patchy fog and frost north of the Divide to start with. That will clear to a partly cloudy day, but under cloud we could see a few light showers, mostly about the northeast of the state, and then into the evening as that trough approaches, showers building across the west and also through the southwest, but generally looking at falls of less than about 2 millimeters or so. Otherwise, temperatures looking cool to mild for this time of year. Melbourne partly cloudy, slight chance of a shower into the evening with a top of 15 degrees. Partly cloudy but mostly dry up in Mildura with a maximum of 18. Now to Tasmania, with clear skies overnight, we will see patchy fog and also frost. That will clear to a mostly dry day, but showers will build from the west as that trough approaches, reaching the coast into the afternoon and then moving onto the north coast as we head into the evening. We could see up to 10 millimeters or so with higher isolated falls around elevated areas, but it will be a mostly dry day along the east coast. So for Hobart, partly cloudy, but we could see a slight chance of a light shower into the evening, top of 15 degrees and 14s across the board for northern parts of Tasmania. Now across to South Australia, we'll see some patchy fog along the coast in the morning, then showers will move from the Eyre Peninsula and down towards the southeast of the state through the day. Could see up to about 5 millimeters or so, but they'll mostly clear away into the evening. Temperatures will be a little bit cooler though, with behind that trough they'll swing around to a bit more colder southwesterly. So Adelaide 17 degrees, slight chance of a shower or two, but it will be mostly dry in the north of the state, reaching up into the mid-20s. Now to Western Australia, we will see some showers across the goldfields. They'll move down towards the Esperance coast through the day. Quite patchy totals overall, but we could see up to about 10 millimeters through some areas. And then into the afternoon, showers build across the southwest capes. Head of that trough and cold front, we will see those showers building as well as isolated thunderstorms, but they will reach Perth closer towards midnight and more likely into Friday. But we could see just some moderate falls along parts of the Albany coast. Further north, it is remaining cloudy across northwestern parts of the state. Patchy showers are possible across parts of the Gascoyne. Otherwise, with those northeasterly winds, temperatures a little bit on the milder side. So Perth, possible late shower, top of 20 degrees, otherwise reaching the high 20s to low 30s across the Pilbara. Finally, across northern Australia, not much change compared to the last few days. We could see a few very light showers touching across the Tiwi Islands. Otherwise, with dry east to southeasterly winds, we are looking at a sunny day, but with high fire danger across parts of the Darwin area. So 32 degrees in Darwin with sunny conditions, reaching the low 30s across into the Kimberley.
And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. Very shortly we'll cross to our next guest, Claire Rogerson. If she could just move to her left a little bit, that would really help us because she's disappearing. That's it, to your left. Before we get into Claire, I always play music. And I thought, because we always have humans playing music, this clip's been circulating, and other ones too, around the traps. Have a look at this. This is a horse called Upia. Y-U-P-I-A. There's Upia playing the guitar, very much like how I play guitar. I don't play the guitar very well at all. Clink, clunk, clink. Claire Rogerson is the proprietor of Snowy Brumbies Horsemanship. It's a family company she runs with her son Charlie, who trains Brumbies with a gentle technique based on building trust and connection. They are also using herds of Brumbies to graze serrated tussock. That's a declared weed that is taking over pastoral land and is developing herbicide resistance. That's why we get rid of the horses, so we have more weeds. While now most stock won't graze it, Brumbies will. Yummy. And in trials, it has been demonstrated that grazing by Brumbies effectively controls the tussock by preventing seeding and allowing other species to germinate in between tussocks. In 2023, the Snowy Brumbies horsemanship team decided to start a registered charity to help wild horses and Brumbies that were in need of a new home. We are very proud to be they're very proud to be also registered as a gift recipient for tax purposes. So all donations are tax deductible. Claire, thank you for joining us. We don't have you there. I'm just going to go to something to play. And guess what? We're back in. By the way, that's a very, I think it's important because people, the ones who have been preached to understand what's happening, how terrible it is, but the general population don't understand and don't really care. And I think it's terrible that we have such apathy at the moment for these magnificent creatures. And we just saw how talented they are. Not only can they prevent bushfires by eating those weeds, they can play guitars. Claire, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. And I'm talking to you from Snowy Mountain, Snowy River country, and I just want to pay my respects to the Garigo people, whose land I'm talking on today.
And they should have a lot more input than they're being allowed to also. And I've often said when you have such huge amounts of money floating around, you could probably smell it there. The whiff of the scent of corruption is probably quite pungent at this stage.
We try to stay quite out of here in the bush, away from most of that. We work tirelessly with, we're very grateful with the wild horses and from the Snowy Brumbies horses, and have done now for over 15 years. So we smell more of them and that part of their lives than we do with the government and the politics of this story. So yeah, it's but it's a tough one for sure. So yeah, thanks for chatting to me.
Yeah, it is tough, and it's very emotional too. I have to say, sometimes I become quite emotional. I don't know why. I do know why it is, because it's so unnecessary, and it's to me smacks of bullying to the extreme.
Yeah. Can I just say to everyone out there who's been watching and being looking at all the images and reading everything and seeing everything in this last couple of months, we feel for you, but it is full on. But sadly, this the ill treatment of these horses has been happening for quite a long while. As I said, we've been on the land here for 20 years and working only with wild horses for 15. We haven't worked with any other horses except for the Brums. So, and my heart goes out to you guys. And yeah, but we're not here to dwell on the cruelty. We're here to give you guys the solution of the Snowy Brumbie and its future.
Okay, what is the solution and the future?
All right, well, the first part to it, sorry, that's just my dog. The first part to it is the minute that the government saw that, or changed the Snowy Brumbie from being a culturally recognised and revered animal to a feral, they lost all value and value in the government and probably the Australian public's eye. We had to then change that. We know the value, and I know lots of people see the value of, them living lovely in the bush and wild and like that thought. But the value of these horses goes more into their worth in the future. And the first part of value we started working with was we train them. We don't just let them just go and fend for themselves out in a paddock in a bush. And sorry I couldn't bring any Brums today. They're all out for winter, having a winter break and doing their thing in the bush with the they're all trained. There's no way I could whistle and they'll all come running in. It's not that. It's just they need a bit of time out, and then our value was in their training. So once we tamed and trained, and we've done hundreds now of wild horses, and we got them connected with the families and mountain people down here, and they've now gone out to those families on those people's land. They've become part of that. So for us to move any Brumbies from our training, people don't have to own over 100 acres. It has to be approved land. It has to have, a water source through it. The people have to learn how to manage the Brumbies in round yards, like we train them how to teach people how to look after them. And then, of course, we then keep training them through into riding. And I've ridden my Brumbies and others I've trained through the National Park and in all the areas that people have been talking about, and I've ridden on my Brumbie Sammy right out amongst hundreds and hundreds of the Brums just before they were shot in the first helicopter cull 2 years ago. So that's they're valued in that. So the value starts to be loved by people, and then these people, there's a couple of ones here that have their own Airbnbs, one at Hilltop and one at top of the range. And people then have started to book out their Airbnbs just so they can come and stay and watch the Brumbies on those people's bushland, live naturally, live beautifully, and also connect. So we started the value of that. We have 30,000 plus followers on our Facebook of how we train and how we've done this. We've created a tourism product here at Snowy Brumby Horsemanship. We open the gates in October, we close them in May, and between that we run training tours, we do come meet the Brumbies, we run people on how to do ride training with us, and now this summer we're about to launch our Snowy River Brumby dinner show where the general public can come and see how wild horses, how unique and amazing they are and how they work with us. And then through our observation of the Brumbies on our own land here, and then also on now the lands that we've trained them for, we began to see a common thread, and that was that the Brumbies, by choice, were eating a weed here called serrated tussock, which up until now you were literally, when I first bought the land, you were forced to spray it. If not, you were going to be given a fine. And the weed inspector from council would come and look at my land and my neighbours and who we had the Brumbies on, and they'd say, oh, well, you know, it looks like something's managing it. And we said, well, we're not spraying it. We've got this Brumbies that seem to be eating it. And so we're now 15 years down that track, and now we've seen it happen in other people's land, and the changes come over a year or so, the Brumbies being on that land. And now we have, of course, an agronomist, a university lecturer, and also, of course, this amazing big farm up near Goulburn, who it's an agricultural farm, and they're the ones who asked us to do our first trial up there this winter. So we've got 9 Brumbies up there on one of their pieces of land that usually would only run cattle, and they're running side by side with a cattle group to see the difference. And the manager of that property, we've been going up, checking every month, making sure everything's okay, of course checking the Brumbies' welfare. And the manager of that property, he just turned to me and he said, Claire, we need them to stay, we need more, we need to, you know, we need these Brumbies here. He said that it's working, they're eating it. And I said, I know. I said, we've been saying this, we just need someone to understand what we're doing and get behind us. And I know there's a lot, and I appreciate everybody's fight or whatever it is you've done to try to help the Snowy Brumby. But yesterday is yesterday, it's gone. Most of the Brumbies are gone from the park. You can keep fighting for them for sure, but unless we have a solution, unless we can show the government a way forward, they just don't see the other options. And we are the only ones with that option. We have the way forward.
Tell me, because there are and it's becoming clearer and clearer. I mean, people, had anecdotal evidence, but they're now seeing that, that becomes a little more stronger with flyovers and stuff like that. That the numbers are nowhere near what the state government has said and ISC have said. If you lose the Brumby, a couple of things here. If you lose the Brumby who've been there for 200 years in the park, and I'll give you an example. We were there at Brett Smith's property about 2 weeks ago in Jindabyne with the Moomba hut, huts, and my wife popped across the stream. There's a little bridge there which he put there, and we were broadcasting there. So I was freezing. I was like a block of ice. But she hopped across and said it was this instant feeling of a void. There was no life, no nothing, no birds, no nothing. And she said it was really bizarre. So you take that out of the national park and you move it, extrapolate to other parts of the park. It's not a good look, not a good sign. The other part is because the horses are, they say for the environment. No, they're part of it. They are the environment. So let's just drop that one immediately. The second thing is, if those weeds just keep growing and growing, and others have said, they've all said to me in the area, that was last weekend and 2 weekends before, a week before, that if there's a fire, and there will be a fire because that's part of our history, if there's a fire, it's going to be the mother of all fires, because the undergrowth will be just so thick and lush and dry and ready for a big fire. So, at the moment, I don't believe it's for any good, by the way. I do believe there are other players and other things at stake here. But if you remove the Brumbie, first of all, you have this, it was from my wife, and she just popped over there and felt it instantly. You have the life sucked out of the park. And secondly, when there's a fire, you're going to have an obliteration. I'm not going to say, is this on purpose, because I don't think it is. But that's part of the ramifications of what they're doing, and it's so important that we stop now.
All right. Firstly, I always I train horses. I train the wild horses. That's what I do, and I'm much better with them than I am with people. I have a great team, my family, and including also the president of our charity, Sidoni Carpenter, and I always say, you do people, I do horses. She does a much better job. So whatever I say in this interview, if I upset people, if people don't like what I'm about to tell you, then I am so sorry. But I have always spoken up on behalf of the Brumbies and not on behalf of any person or people's or political views. All right, in the national park, the Brumbies are just about gone. But the park is a huge area, and you have to understand, a lot of people talk about the north end or the south end, or they talk about the G-High area, or they talk about the lower Snowy or the Injabara area. So we have 20 plus Brumbies here who are on our training team. The Brumbies come from all over, from Sunny, my first, comes from Peppercorn near Canberra. Sammy was my second, she comes from the lower Snowy River. So the park area, Snowy Mountains Park, Kosciuszko National Park, it goes for thousands of kilometres, and it doesn't have fences, so it reaches into the Tumbarumba area, of course. We go over to the Bago area, and the Bago, we have Bago Brumbies here too. And so the majority of these places they talk in sort of isolation to certain parts of the park. But on the fringes and the outskirts and the areas and Brumbies don't know what's parkland, what's state forest, what's private land. There are still Snowy Brumbies left in our mountains. But when it comes to understanding about what the Brumbies' role is in national parks, we can't just pull out the old arguments of fire safety, of weed control, of tourism, of cultural significance, because, well, that didn't work so far. And the numbers, years and years ago, I always said the numbers were always irrelevant. We spent, I don't know, charity people spent so much money on counting and trying to justify and say, oh well, we need this many left and we need this and we need that. But remember, once they were termed a feral horse or feral animal, you're talking about the land manager of a national park allowing what they see, and I'm just talking on their behalf, an un-Australian natural native animal living in an ecologically environmentally sensitive area. So would they allow one dog up there? No. Would they allow 10 dogs up there? No. If you turn around and said even if those dogs had cultural significance, no. One horse? No. For them, they believe they are doing what they feel is right for the Australian society, to manage that land as a national park. Hating those people for doing their job is not going to get us anywhere. If anything, all it did was shut the doors of any open communication. 14 years ago, I went to one of the last meetings in Jindabyne, and I spoke about this. I walked in there at the LJ Hotel on a cold, wintry, wet night. My son then was only 5. He's 20 now and runs his own Snowy Mountain Stockman business training horses. I can't be more proud of him. But he was only a little 5-year-old at our little Dalgety school here, and we all went up, and I walked in and I was embarrassed to be there for him because I saw people screaming and yelling at people I knew who worked for national parks, and they were good people. They were just trying to do their job, yelling at them, threatening them, making them out to be these bastards, and I was going, this isn't going to work. How are people going to listen to each other if all you do is abuse people? And I put my hand up on that night, said one thing, and I said, whatever this is, it's just a waste. Humans are just so stupid. Look at us. We argue until we don't even talk. And now I've put my hand up numerous times to be given assistance to government parks, anyone who wants to know more about how and what we do here at Snowy Brumby Horsemanship. And I can tell you now, that is just shut, because as soon as I even mention Brumby in any government circle, they look at me and go, well, no, you don't, you guys, you're great, you guys just don't, you guys are crazy. So I'm sorry, but we got to do it differently.
And I do agree. I agree with you. I think at the moment, and that's why we're just keeping it down the middle. I am very emotive on any horse being shot, any of these magnificent creatures, because they have such a great history with us.
But can I tell you too, Ryan? I have my own. You talk about people who know the Brumby. Well, when you've ridden on one and swum rivers and know one for 15 years, and they taught you everything you know, it actually carried you in places you would never ever imagine. I can't ride. I'm a shit rider. This horse, this Brumby, both my Brumbies have taken me places amongst wild horses. There are hundreds of them just waiting to be that helicopter to come in. And when you talk about people knowing the Brumby, they know, of course, what they see. But we know the Brumby. We know what makes it happy. And this is the most controversial thing. We have sold their souls to the rehoming. Rehoming is I think the practice of how we're doing it right now is probably the most cruelest thing in the world for some of these poor Brumbies. It's a lottery, an absolute lottery where they end up. You can't. I get emails, I get phone calls. I give free advice and training to anyone in Australia with a Brumby who's ended up with it, and you do not want to see what I see on a weekly basis of what these poor horses and where they've gone and how they've been saved. It is absolutely cruel, and I have said this. If it was to do with my Brumby Sonny and my girl Sammy, and you don't know how much I love them, and I got an opportunity, and they said, you take them back up in that park, you let them go and go, they have a choice of either get to rehoming or be shot, I'd shoot them myself.
That's terrible.
And this is what I'm saying. People don't like what I'm talking to you about. We don't need these Brumbies saved. We don't need them pulled out of the park. We don't need them taken to people's and sold off like they're the next labradoodles of the bloody horse world. We need to give them back their respect. They need to be on mountain land, back in their mountain homes. Doesn't have to be in the park. There is lots of other mountain land up here. We need to work together with national parks. Create in the park an area where we can work with them on assisting these horses. They can be a tourism product, and we know parks love tourism. We can then work out how to bring them through safely, and with the training methods we use, we do never, ever rope the horse. We don't put the halter and lead on that poor little foal. We don't sell off the foals from their mares until they're at least, like the Brumbie foal has to stay with a mare till it's at least 3 years plus. That mare teaches that Brumbie everything it needs to know. And yet they get them in, they give birth, 6 months, that foal's sold off as the next thing that gives something, that little project to run. We showcase them in bloody, places, and they're just like, what? They've lost all of their mountain spirit. So yeah, people don't like what I say. But with this serrated tussock, we have the solution to get more in to live. Now, when they go out onto this land, where the serrated tussock is, they're not sitting out in a field surrounded by a highway. This is mountain land they're going into. This is land that they're fixing on behalf of living another, a bushland home. These Brumbies too, people will tell you that, they're going to die of starvation of just eating tussock. Please, they're not just eating the serrated tussock. They live in, like here, we have the Snowy River, it's sitting right in front of me. We have good feed on that river, and the Brumbies choose to eat along in the river, they don't wallow in the river, they cross it, they don't make any damage, and then they come up into the rocky outcrop areas, and then they eat the tussock, and they eat parts of the salt bushes and all the different plants. They're not your domestic grazing horses. These are wild animals who have learnt to live off all sorts of plants for their own benefits. And yes, they choose to eat the serrated tussock.
It's interesting. And again, I feel like I'm a bit of a blow-in at times because we've just come into this the last, probably 2 months, and because we didn't know about it. And
Yeah.
I think most Australians, I refer to a lot of Australians being apathetic, but many just don't know about it. And there's a reason for that, and they don't want people to know what's actually happening. But one government's no different than another government. They still do the same tricks. If you, we're right off of everything we're going to talk about, but I think this is very important. What needs to be done? Don't worry about hurting people's feet and jumping on toes and whatever. What actually needs to be done?
By chance, we live here on the river, and I know quite a few really good people in national parks who are quite high up in their management here in the Kosciuszko area, and being on the Snowy River, some of them are whitewater paddlers, and they asked to get off on our land after paddling the river. And I remember the first time they all sort of got off the river, and they were sitting having a beer, and a whole bunch of our Brums just went down and walked around with them, and went up for pats and said g'day, and I walked down, and they all know me, and I've paid their respects to these people. They do a hard job. And I walked up and I said, oh, how's your river, how's your paddle? And they're great. And he looked at me and I said, yeah, they're the Brumbies. I'm sorry, guys, they just want to say hi. But that's who, that's what you're managing up there, okay? This is who they are. So if you want to know the first part about it, how do we make the first positive change? Stop hating these people. Stop hating everybody and start opening up. Have a handshake. Now, I know people are passionate and angry, and people think, oh, well, Claire, you mustn't care when you showed that video of those horses and that gunshot. You don't know what that means. Everybody, I know it's a hard thing, but, when you ride through and, you've shown people, and I know we've had great visitors from overseas, and they've made a lot of documentary, and, It's all, you know, this is horrible, this is horrible, this is horrible. But you're not showing us stuff that this has been going on for years. And I know it's great for the general people to see more, but if we keep hating and pushing and trying to shame more and more people, and from, you know, people who are trying to do their job, we'll never open up that discussion. And so my wish is for anyone who hates the Brumbies. I'd like even anyone from whatever politics you're from. I don't even know most of these people's names. I just don't have time. But walk in our gate, come and meet the Brums, come and just talk to us. Come and see what these guys have done environmentally here on our land to rehabilitate it. So much so we have nearly every neighbour wanting the Brumbies on their land around us. It's been amazing, and they love them and have seen the benefits. But I would love, you know, the head of national parks to come down, and I'd love any government person to come in and we can talk and show you what we do.
What I have to say, and I think, and I appreciate, and I truly understand and agree with what you're saying. I love animals, and I think we are put here to look after animals, and they rely on us, and so on. So that's my weakness, I suppose. If they would just stop killing, that's it. You know, the 1080, get rid of the 1080. The bullets, get rid of the bullets. And as you said, sit down and talk. It's both sides. It's both sides. We have on one side and I understand they're all coming from a very, very, you know, good place. But there seems to be kings and queens. There's no such thing as a king and a queen. It's all about the horse.
Yeah.
It's about achieving, as you said, the best result. So if they could stop the killing, first of all, and have a candid and a frank and honest discussion, then we would go somewhere. Unfortunately, I do believe there are other things in play here, and that is, yeah, it is never meant to be good, the other things in play, and you just have to look. So I agree, we need to talk, but at the same time, we also need to, you know, we need to understand there are other things at play, and no matter how pure a heart you have, if you are dealing with another agenda that's not really visible, then your pure heart is going to get run over very quickly. But if they can just stop the killing, I think we're in a 3 billion% better position that we were before the killings started. And that's what we need to do. Stop the killing. Just stop it.
Well, look, it's over. As in the helicopters, they're gone. It's all quiet. You talk about ridden back up through into areas 2 years after, you know, if you wanted to see the real carnage, it was 2 years ago. If you wanted to ride back through valleys of death, you could have been where we rode. You would have seen what we saw. And now what's left is just empty ghost valleys. What my son was able to see before this happened, he probably won't ever see again in his lifetime. So we made the biggest mistake ever, but it's gone. It's done. Yesterday is yesterday. It's done. It's done. There are still Brumbies. There are still Snowy mountain Brumbies. Got a call the other day from a person out on a property out down near the Lower Snowy. He's got 2 stallions that are stuck up in his seclusion fencing area, and you know, there's still Brumbies out there everywhere needing help. They're not in the parks or this people's views at the moment. They'll continue living, and we'll be working with them and others. But my timing might be up nearly. My old laptop here is saying it's getting low.
Okay, you know, I have to say, This has been brilliant. Thank you.
Well, please know the Snowy Brumby Horsemanship is a big team. I cannot be more proud of everybody involved. We have so many different people with different backgrounds, skills and knowledge. My fortune was to be able to understand and begin this journey, and it started with the Brumbies. It's all about them. I speak on their behalf always. It is their interests that are always at our forefront. So please, anyone who would like to know more, we'd be very happy. We're on winter break. We begin again with all our tours in October, and we look forward to giving anybody some more assistance.
One day I hope to have a beer with you.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Always, you'd be welcome.
I'm a gut. I drink more than one beer.
We'll one day come and have a beer by a fire up in the park, and we'll be out there riding. We're very grateful to have it. We're grateful to be able to be up there. And we're grateful to live in this amazing home. We don't want it changed. We know that. And I'm sorry for the people who knew the park before the park, for the people who knew it like I did before the cull. Yep.
If somebody wants to find out more about you, how do they do that?
Yeah, but you go onto our website. It's called Snowy Brumby Horsemanship, and also we're on Facebook as well. Please leave us a message, and we always try to reply. If anyone has any Brumbies up there in the domestic world that need a hand, we're always there to give any advice for free. And we ask people, usually they send us a short video of what they need or need some advice. And can't thank our charity enough. Raises the money for us to go and maybe also re-rescue a lot of the Brumbies who've been put in the rehoming lottery, and it didn't work out for them.
You're a very, very good person. You'll go to heaven. I'll probably, I'll go before you, but I'll be the guy. You pass this guy on a hot rock. You you're him.
Thank you. So I live in heaven already. I'm very grateful for my family, my partner, but also for the journey we have with the wild horses. Thank you.
Claire, thank you very much. Claire Rogerson, owner of Snowy Brumby Horsemanship. Thank you so much. God bless you, and talk to you soon.
Thank you, and best of day to you. Bye now.
Thank you. God bless you. This is the Country Telegraph.
We need to talk about a situation that's been developing in Australia. How our government has been fed lies, and now we are facing failure. Our native horses being shot from helicopters, and they call this humane. 15 bullets is called overkill, yet some of them take days to die. While our native horses are being shot from the skies, our politicians spin more lies. The numbers they've been fed comes from muddling on rabbits. The politicians swan around and call us stupid Brumby advocates. We have to fight to save the Brumbies. The numbers are dwindling to the ground. I will never stop until we move them from this living hell. Otherwise, there will be no more around. I've written near on 40 pages now and submitted it to court, talking about how inhumane it is for a horse to take days to die. We are in 2026, what the fuck is wrong with us that a cognitive neuroscientist has to write a report explaining why it's inhumane to leave an animal to die? The ISC say Brumbies are killing our environment, while Snowy 2.0 is having oopsies. Tell me who kills the environment more, us or them? We have to fight to save the Brumbies. Their numbers are dwindling to the ground. I will never stop until we move them from this living hell. Otherwise, there will be no more around. I'm starting to regret being an Australian, because everything I've seen from this government lately is everything that is wrong with man. I will not stop, I will not lay down. I will come marching for you with my intelligence and my arguments and anything I can. If you're with us, then stay with us. Don't fight amongst yourselves. I don't give a shit about what he said, she said. What I care about is now. This is bullshit, and I won't stand for it. Our government's lack of transparency is killing me. numbers are dwindling to the ground. I will never stop until we move them from this living hell. The ISC are a bunch of lobbyists spinning bullshit everywhere they go. I do care about our environment, that's why ISC has to go. I raise eyes to the sky, Brumbies, and ask for your forgiveness. Humans like that don't deserve the positions that we have given them. I'm sorry, we couldn't do more sooner. Your deaths won't be in vain. We will fight so that your name remains in our history as one of Australia's biggest welfare disasters.
Last week, a couple of women, by the way, welcome back to a Country Telegraph too. Just incredible. Claire Rogerson, what an amazing person, very, very disturbing that it's finished. She says it's all finished. Last week, a couple of women were in Kosciuszko National Park. You might have seen the video, in an authorised accessible area when they were stopped by National Park employees. They weren't just stopped, but were photographed and blocked in by 2 or 3 vehicles. Now, the men captured on video refused to show their identification or give their names. The women were clearly upset and intimidated. Now, is this appropriate behaviour by public servants? If the women were doing anything wrong, and even if they were in an unauthorised area, it's a paddock, give me a break. They should not have been treated this way. If you saw them, they were, we talk about bullying. They were bullies. They intimidated. I mean, if you're a bloke, you'd feel under pressure because these guys, no teeth, nothing between the ears, obviously. They were just bullies. Oh, we can bully these women. Now, we're going to put these questions to Tony Nikolic, a General Manager at AFL Solicitors. And Tony is an experienced lawyer, criminologist, and committed to social justice. And he offers pro bono legal work and champions civil and human rights. Tony, nice to see you again.
Oh, great to see you, and thanks for having me on once again.
You're still as good looking as ever.
Oh, why, thank you, mate. And you haven't had the scotch yet, so thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I can tell you that because I've rehearsed my lines and I won't forget it. Just tell me, first of all, I'm not too sure if you know a whole lot about what's happening with the Brumbies, but it truly is. If you want to see some injustice happening, and you know us from way back, we're just gobsmacked, as they would say, about what's happening to this whole area. But these 2 women, they drove into the park. It was opened. They drove into it, and next minute, this car, something out of Mad Max and some racing movie, zoom straight across, stopped in front of it. They're blocked in from the back. Burly guys, they were not nice at all. And one guy was filming, the others were just, they were very, very strong-handed. I know in the States it's probably called kidnap. Is that what it is called here? And if it is, if it's breaking the law, and these people work for the state government, surely there's some please explains required.
Well, there are a few parts to this. One is, firstly, I don't know the exact location of where it occurred. I did see some footage in relation to a car travelling down a road, some ladies in that car, and another car comes zipping across the paddock, which appears to be, by virtue of the video, New South Wales or state or some sort of a transport car, and pulls up in front of them. Now, firstly, it's almost dangerous driving, isn't it? Here are some people. Let's take it at their highest case and assume that these people weren't there and allowed on the property. Does that really increase this chance of a government sort of car coming across the paddock and wanting to run you off the road and create even more havoc? Well, I don't think that's a proportional response, to be quite candid with you. And secondly, the ladies were clearly terrified, according to the clip that I have seen. The issue is, if they were authorised and they're stopping the flow of traffic, then that is clearly a problem that the administrative structure may need to look at. Number one, what is their authority to be pulling over cars on a road? Do they have that authority, and do they have that power? That is the first thing that I would be looking at. And secondly, what is the power for them to be essentially, you're detaining people, aren't you? Yeah, you're detaining it, and it could well come into a case of false imprisonment, especially where you're restricting the movement and access of people. Now, people don't have unlimited rights to do whatever they want where they want, but you're right. Look, there are certain limitations, and a lot of these places where they're open parklands or open, pasture and things like that, unless it's absolutely explicit private property, like a farmer's property, if it's crown land, maybe there's issues there. If it's a national park, it should be clearly marked. But if someone's just minding their business and driving along the road and someone comes zapping out, that's dangerous driving and could actually incur further damage to other people. And actually, it's a threat of safety to those people who are driving, isn't it? It's dangerous driving.
What's their legal recourse? I mean, you would think the police would have been involved by now. Having said that, and I'm not going to cast, obvious things here, but if you look at the police force works for the New South Wales government. The National Parks New South Wales part works for the New South Wales government. You have, as they often refer to as, these cookers running out onto the park. What they do is they discredit them all. Discredit anybody that says stop killing these horses. They discredit them and go after them. I know a guy that he's been followed by someone that works for the New South Wales government, and he's got evidence and photos and stuff and blah blah blah. So it would seem, and I often refer to the National Parks and Wildlife Service as something akin to a militia from Ukraine, because they have that. What they did is something out of almost a B grade movie. What can they do? I mean, I would imagine that the police have been involved. I also would imagine at this stage we've heard that nothing's happened, because we haven't heard about anything happening. It seems that they have been bullied and detained. You could probably say kidnapped if you wanted to, because they couldn't back out, couldn't get away. What about legal recourse? If the coppers are out of the question, what can they do?
Well, there are a number of avenues available. Number one is, as I said, we really need to get into the weeds as to what really occurred, where it was. And for example, first, let's take it back one step. A national park, well, it belongs to the community. Access can be temporarily restrained, so floods, fires, and we can understand that. Environmental type effects. Working, there could be shooting on the property where there's feral pests, and I know that's a big subject right now with respect to the Brumbies, which I have a lot of sympathy in relation to that. And without going down another trajectory, my father, late father, loved horses, and so I find that there's better ways to do things, and we really need to look at that. But in this sense, there are temporary restrictions, but ultimately, national parks belong to the people, and the National Parks and Wildlife Service, they do have a level of administration over that. But what we need to look at too is when these people come on, let's look at it like this. There was a barrier. It didn't have valid notice, or that there was a closure. Well, that's not a sufficient explanation for the National Parks and Wildlife Service to say that, well, we're restricting access. So have they communicated this? Did they provide maps to the community? Did they tell people you can't come here before they engage in this? First things I would do is understand exactly where this occurred, understand whether there was a delegated authority to have done such a thing. What were the delegated markers, such as what times, what were the reasons, why are these people being stopped or detained, even partially. So there are a lot of mechanisms available to people, especially when you look at the administrative structure of what's happening. They can review, if they receive a fine, have that reviewed. And I strongly suggest that is the case, especially what we're seeing down there with the Brumbies and things like that. there's a very aggressive push to protect the government's stance on culling processes, and that may be why there's shooting going on and they're trying to stop people. If that's the case, then you don't want stray bullets going through your car. So there are issues we need to unpack here.
Can you, again, our background, you know very well. We're loved by no one. But I'm just thinking, though, the shootings of the Brumbies has been going on for years. And as a previous guest said, which I was not aware of, there was so many were killed 2 years ago because they are damaging the environment. There is no evidence. There's no evidence, Tony, at all that they are damaging the environment. In fact, they're doing more for the environment than what people have even been made aware of. Before with COVID, what they did, they couldn't go after argue the point with someone because who was against the shots or lockdowns or whatever, because they would lose. So what they do is they discredit you. And the same thing, the playbook is that they will discredit you, call you cuckoos, call you nutters, got to save the frog, got to do this and whatever. And it's all as they would say, it's all horse shit. And we're just wondering then, how do we, because it's a pure lie. It is an absolute lie. And the issue with those ladies and everybody else in the Kosciuszko National Park, those that sympathise around Australia and globally feel that this is a injustice to the umpteenth degree. What can we do about that? I mean, legally, how can we stop? I mean, they've had injunctions and going for injunctions and this and that, and you always have your fingers crossed. They're not working. This, I have to tell you, and you know our background, this to me is one of the great injustices that I've ever seen, because it's based on pure lies and it's based on money. There's nothing at all true about it. Yet they're winning the battle. How can we stop? And it's all very well saying go to the politicians. You notice most of them are very quiet. They're not going to say much. How can then we as a group, collective group, or just one of the organisations or whatever, or the people collectively, how can you stop it? How can you stop the shooting right now? Because there is no evidence that they're doing this damage. It is just pure lies, propaganda. And again, as I said, if you say something that you say the evidence does not show that, you have no evidence, then they swing it at you and they will just go after you with it like these maniacs like they were during COVID. They will just do whatever they can to make you look like an absolute nutter, whereas all you're doing is saying to them, show me the evidence. There is none. What can we do?
Well, there are a few things. There are a few points in that. And as you know, Mike, during COVID, the evidence was there. We presented that evidence. You're starting to see a lot of that evidence come out in the US Senate with Fauci, Dr. Fauci, my apologies. And a lot of what you're seeing with respect to the orders, the mandates, the lockdowns, well, we ran those cases very early on, and the courts dismissed our cases. Obviously, they ran on some method or logic that they believed was the case in respect of ministerial directions, and pretty well gave the minister almost any direction possible. There's an old constitutional law book that says if a minister gives a direction that all blue-eyed babies can be killed at birth, well, that direction must be fulfilled or can be fulfilled, and it's a lawful direction. I wouldn't agree with that. I certainly don't agree with it. I don't agree with what happened during COVID. I don't agree with what happened to lockdowns. I don't agree with what happened to mandates. And in particular, we're seeing that now the whole world is starting to now transition into what we were doing and saying at that point in time. Now, I'm not digressing there because that becomes the basis and the foundation of where they think they are. And the only reason they're at that point is because when we were running cases, we were actually saying to people, this isn't about COVID. COVID is the subject. The wider problem is the unfettered powers and the lack of proportionality when it comes into the principle of legality, and that is the legality of directions, the legality of administrative processes, the legality of the delegated processes and how those people fulfill those processes. And another one is your rights and maintaining those rights. People forgot that. And so what they started to do was to segregate the vaccinated from the unvaccinated. What are we seeing here? They're doing the same, it's the same playbook, it's just a different subject. And so the way you get around that, or the way to get with that, is to understand that let's look at Australia like a kangaroo. Don't kick the roo. It looks lonely, it looks cold, it looks old. It's just minding its business in the paddock, yeah? But that kangaroo has a whole flock behind it, a whole mob. And we need that mob to get together, yeah? Because that mob, once you kick that roo, you can't jump. And people need to learn how to jump. Australia used to be very courageous in the way we stood up to power and unfettered power. Unfortunately, the institutions appear to be in line, and that alignment has restricted a lot of processes, but the alignment is only as strong as they can make it. But the Australian people control that, and they have forgotten that the institutions work for the people, okay? And that's the roo in the paddock. We need to get the mob now with that paddock. And we need to understand that it's the Brumbies, it's COVID. We're also seeing the rural farmers down in Victoria who are having these issues of AI data centres and wind turbines, electrical power lines. They're being fined now because they're not allowing VicGrid onto their property. So when we start seeing that these things are all adding up, we all need to get together and say the subject is different, but the process is the same. And the institutions aren't going to do you any favours if you treat them in isolation. And we need to get together and we need to understand that these processes are ones that cannot be treated in isolation. They need to be done together. And each and every one has their own topic line, but at the end of the day, it's affecting all Australians.
Yeah, we it's I have to say, I mean, again, we've been doing this for a long time, but do you get the feeling that that Australia is becoming less and less like the Australia of old, and that if you have an opinion or you don't like something, then you just better get on a slow boat and go somewhere else because it doesn't augur well for the future. But I do think Australia is it's in trouble of losing everything that our grandparents and their grandparents fought for and died for.
Well, the issue really here is we've become so self-aware that if someone says, "Look, look at my tie, Mike," "Hey Tony, I don't like your tie," well, that person now feels offended, and they've become very soft. But that's not the Australia we used to be, and we grew up in an Australia where I was saying in one of my media pieces, the Sydney Morning Herald, only a couple of weeks ago, I remember in the school paddocks, and excuse me for saying so, but we had different groups, but all the groups got along. So yeah, and I'm going to say this very openly: Wogs, Aussies. All these different groups, and we all called each other, but we all got along. And when something happened, and when we were playing sports, we all coalesced, and we all wore the same school uniform. And that's what we've forgotten here, and we've become so soft to the touch of, oh, you're an anti-vaxxer, or you're a Brumby lover, or you're one of these people who's anti-energy progression, or you're a cultist. Well, really, Senator Moreno said it to Dr. Fauci just the other day during a Senate hearing, and I'm sorry for saying so, but he said it so eloquently. He said, "Who the fuck do you think you are?" We've forgotten that, okay?
Yep, it's and we should be able to look at our past, look at the history to determine our future. At the moment, if you keep covering up the past and hiding what was obvious and not talking about some of the things that happened, then I think our future is very cloudy indeed. Tony Nikolic, world's greatest lawyer, I forgot to say that, but if somebody wants to find out more about you, sir, how do they do that?
Oh, they can get onto aflsolicitors.com.au, AFL Solicitors on Instagram, Tony Nikolic 10 on X, and it's admin@aflsolicitors.com.au. Again, I quoted Senator Marino. Excuse my language, everyone. It's a direct quote. I don't usually speak like that. I just want that to be very well known. But I think we do need to ask ourselves a question as Australians, Mike, and say to these people, there's a big credibility gap between the institutions and the people now. And the people have woken up and they're starting to see all these different sectors and subjects being separated. We need to be, as Australians, understanding that as one nation, we move it forward. We are making those moves. It is happening, but moving it forward, we need to hold the line together.
Very hard, isn't it? Especially when government comes after you. It's like they have all the resources. I saw one guy who went after the Human Rights Commission. That's right. I can't recall the full detail, but went after the Human Rights Commission. So they ignored him until he presented them with some papers. And they went to the Attorney General. Now he's fighting against the Australian government because they didn't have the funding or the funds to go into a long, protracted law case. So it's very hard to fight government. They have these resources that we don't. But what we do have is probably a sense of right. And collectively, we're very, very powerful.
Yeah, we've forgotten that, Mike. Mike, that is the key word. Collectively, we're powerful, but they're separating us into those categories. What people need to understand is it's not one isolated category. We do need to unite. And I remember in Canberra on the 12th of February 2022, what happened? Almost 500,000 people got to Canberra. This is the momentum we need.
That was the tainted blood case, which is really interesting. Tony Nikolic.
Oh, that was the COVID mandates. Yeah, that was the COVID mandates.
But it's starting to unravel, just like the people who buy the EVs. Oh, I've got to get a battery. Yep, only 40,000. Anyway, that's just another thing that you'll be probably involved with, because there's a lot of people with 6 to 8 year old EVs, and they're going to pay 40 grand for a battery. Anyway, you probably got one of those anyway, so being a new age lawyer. Tony Nikolic, thank you so much. This is the Country Telegraph.
Among the Brumbies, hear the wild call of the land. My heart breaks open softly as their breath falls on my hand. They've been here for 200 years, doing what wild horses do, healing country, holding stories, loving me and loving you. But now they stand in terror as the choppers fill the sky, and the bullets keep on falling, and they run and they die. Oh, please let our Brumbies live, let the wild ones still run free, for the shooting only wounds the land and you and me. The hills are quiet, empty, there's a trembling in the ground. You know this kind of sorrow doesn't fade, it lingers round. The blood sinks deep in silence, leaves a stain we cannot see, but the earth, she holds the memory of what was and what will be. There was a stallion strong and watchful, with a mane like wind and flame, and his mare so soft and gentle, each one knowing her own name. Such a family in the wild, such a life they wore each day. Tell me why we choose destruction when there is another way. people say. Oh, please hear us now. We're calling out in pain. Let the Brumbies run forever through the sun and through the rain.
Billy D, Save Our Brumbies. And I've got to thank also Claire Rogerson before Tony. If you haven't seen that one, it will be up very shortly. You have to watch it. It's a very moving. And what a magnificent person too. Good on you, Claire. And Tony Nikolic, a very good guy and knows his law very well. Got a frog in the throat, a corroboree frog probably. Okay. This is the Country Telegraph. I'm just getting ready. Rita Ashby, a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful writer and I think she's just stunning. And she's been talking with us and Jen, who's part of us. And it's I'm going to read one of her poems, if I can just clear my throat. And there you are, nothing like a mute button. Okay, let's give this a whirl. I hope I do it justice. I have got a bit of a chest at the moment. Innocence betrayed, no Australian horses going home. This is 1918. By the way, before I get into that, Rita Ashby has been around horses all her life. Her first stock horse was a Brumbie mare. She has a passion for horses and cattle, has trained horses and work on stations in Queensland and Northern Territory. Learning to read and understand these animals. Rita has been writing bush poetry since she was 12 and published as Warinya poetry. Believing poetry can be a concise way to tell a story and make a point. She's written many verses highlighting the plight of the Brumbies. It said, innocence betrayed, and it's, excuse the throat, no Australian horses going home. November 1918. I can't stand it, Patterson said, resigning here and now. They'd already taken 128 to be slaughtered by the guns, bunched in rows of 6 in front of a dozen gunners. I feel like a mass murderer, he said, for what was about to come. He and Sutherland galloped off, not wanting to look back. Heard the machine guns open up while they were getting clear, felling the horses in a heap, trusting to the last. Undaunted under the worst of fire, to be massacred over here. Another squadron trotted out later in the day, grouped again to be mown down like so much Colonel Trash Patterson couldn't hope. Over 3,000 head, the bravest of the brave, who won the British War. Many troopers shot their own to not send them out to that. No other horses could have done it, beyond exhaustion, heat and thirst, ridden straight at heavy fire, and never one turned back. This is the thanks they get for it, shredded by their own. On Alame's order, who opportunely scored himself a personal riding hack, the ultimate betrayal of gallantry under fire, trusting in raw courage not found anywhere on earth. Australia's fighting horses carrying Brumbie blood, with a sense of understanding endured to them from birth, meant nothing to the high command that they risked it all for them. Time and time again, the Australians and their horses earned a reputation for never knowing fear, and tougher than the camels through the desert watercourses. And the horses sensed what was required with spirit enough to know they were there for the greater good. Wherever a mate would go. Very sad, isn't it? And Shanahan, when he found out, was in his room for days, depressed with all allied horse blokes beyond. What words could say. They carried well over 20 stone, and on half rations too, watered every second day, strength from each other drew. And so we have the present day, 110 years on, where allegiance is discussed as if it were a game. And of Brumbies being slaughtered from helicopter gunships by those who call themselves Australians. But betray them just the same. And that's what we're doing. Should be ashamed of ourselves. Why do we treat these great creatures so poorly? Can you imagine those horses that died for this country and those that got through it and helped win the war, being shot, slaughtered like that? What is it with Australia? You know, our history isn't that great in some cases. We just brush it off, don't we? Some would call it pathetic. Others would call it evil. Got to stop it. That, by the way, is an adaptation. That was just my bit. The poem, beautiful poem from Rita, was an adaptation from Bill the Bastard, you bastard, by Roland Perry and Australian War Memorial website, and insights from Keith Sheether, Riverina Light Horses, April 2024. Just an amazing Rita Ashby, amazing poem. Let's play this.
They carried stockmen. They carried soldiers. They carried legends from Beersheba to the mountains of the high country. The thunder herd still rides. Skies and snow gums bow in winter light. 1,000 shadows cross the dawn, their wild hearts burning through the night. Their blood remembers campfire smoke, long dusty trails and stockmen's hands. The freedom of a younger world still running through this ancient land. Listen. The mountains know their language. Listen. The valleys speak their names. They are the thunder rolling beneath the southern sky. From Beersheba's fields of glory to the mountains standing high, no chains can hold them. No walls can tame them. The spirit of the light sands. They carry fate in steady hands. Through dust and fire they thundered on toward Beerscheba's fateful dawn. Horse and rider forged as one, a rolling wave against the guns. The desert shook beneath their stride as Australia rose in pride. They are the thunder herd, rolling beneath the southern sky. From Beersheba's fields of glory to the mountains standing high, no chains can hold them, no walls contain them. The spirit of the light horse ride, they are the thunder herd, and the mountains know their name. And standing on the highest ridges, when the world below has gone to sleep, the ancient stallions face the darkness, guarding secrets they still keep. They remember every stockman, every drover, every mountain horseman, every charge, every rider who never came home, every horse who carried him there. Ride on. Ride on. Ride on. They are the thunder. Dark and wide, the spirits of the old light horse still ride beside their stride. No king commands them, no empire owns them, for freedom runs within their blood, as surely as rivers shape the land. They are the thunder. To the high country, the thunder herd still rides.
There you are. That's a brilliant track, and to Rita for making me almost be carried out. But it's terrible. Think about those poor horses after taking the troops to victory, charging into enemy machine guns, bombs, cannons, things like barbed wire they had to jump over, bayonets. They carried us to victory. The horse knows exactly what is happening. So at the end of it, we kill him. I mean, just kill him. Where is the logic? Where is, bring back diseases? Bugger the disease. And that's rubbish anyway. There's a thing called quarantine. But we owed those horses enormous depth of gratitude. And now we see what's happening to them. 200 years. What is they say the Valley of the Ghost or something? Just terrible. 2 years ago, we're going to find out about that because again we came in late, and the media does a great job. I mean, including independent media. No one talks about it. Just no one talks about it. And if you're on the socials, then you got Google and they're doing their bit with YouTube and stuff, and you got off your Facebook and X. They're going to censor it because government doesn't want people to know about it. Just terrible. I mean, what sort of country are we? We're a pretty messed up country, aren't we? mean, it's just terrible. I don't understand. Why the hell would you do that to these animals? Truly. I mean, why? And as for those friggin' bullies, for those two women, don't give a rat's. You know, you are bullies. You are big, I swear, you big cowards, big bullies. And as for the some of those who are wanting to be king of the resistance movement, pull your friggin' head in. I mean, you're losing the plot. You've got to stop it now. You've got to stop these killings now. It's only me saying it. But I'm sure there are many, many who think it too. You've got to stop it. Yeah, no more. National Parks and Wildlife Service. Start becoming a service. You know, you're under attack because you're taking the coward's way out. Stop it. Just stop it. I mean, we can't do this to. We can't do this. You can't do it to a pet. You can't do it to an intelligent animal because they're in the wild. They're highly intelligent. They're not feral. The only feral ones here are those wanting them killed. Anyway, back in a tick. This is the Country Telegraph.
The Australian Brumbie. This is a Ngurrugu story, introduced through colonisation and released by the settlers and their descendants for almost 200 years into Ngurrugu country, the Snowy Mountains. My ancestors knew them as the Yarraman. We had a relationship with them, and certainly there has been a shared history with them contributing to war efforts, transportation, and the early building of agricultural Australia. This area is also a national park, so we're in a situation that there is an issue in the impact of horse population. We have sought to engage with National Parks and Wildlife and made petition to the Australian government that we need to have a shared solution that's humane, that respects these animals and the ways of First Nation. We cannot lose these animals.
I just have to say something. There is no issue with the horse population. It's just pure misinformation. And Claire said that's finished anyway. Most of them are gone. So there is no issue with the horse population. It's just a narrative that the ISC, National Parks and Wildlife Service, and the government, including federal government, are pumping out, and the other bridge gluers, they glue themselves to bridges, those crazy ones. Oh, the ISC, that's what I'm talking about. So there is no issue. Got to stop it. Just got to stop it. If you don't stop it, you can all go to hell, and we're going to make sure you get there. So stop it. Just stop it. Stop treating the farmers like shit. Stop treating people like crap. Just stop it. Leave these poor horses alone. Just leave it alone. Evil bastard you are. Anyway, that's it. I will speak to you tomorrow. I can't wait to get up early again. I love my pillow. It loves me. Anyway, talk to you tomorrow. Thank you, by the way, for all those comments on Facebook and YouTube and those things. Means a lot to us. And you have every right to say exactly what you think. So don't let me stop you. Whatever you want to say. It's why we live in a democratic society, country. Maybe Australia isn't that anymore. Anyway, have a good one. Enjoyed your company. Claire Rogerson, thank you so much for your time. Tony Nickley, thank you very much. I've forgotten someone there. Everybody, thank you very much for your time. Goodbye. See you tomorrow.
Tell my fool I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. Tell the wind I said goodbye. Brumby hoofprints etched for generations in the snow. I've watched Watch the foals become the mares, the stallions old and slow. Here in the snowy mountains, where my life began, across hills, ridges, and open plains, my fellow Brumbies ran. I've led them through winter storms, drought and summer rain, but I can't outrun what follows now. Shield my family from this pain. My ancestors crossed the oceans, but I was born upon this land. These mountains are my birthplace, the Snowies are my clan. These mountains hold our memories, our family history. If home is where you're raised, then this is where we should be. Tell my foal I kept on running, tell my mare I heard her cry, tell the mountain I belonged here, tell the wind I said goodbye. Stay close beside me, little one. The thunder isn't rain, the sky itself is hunting us, and I cannot stop the pain. I gather those I love and turn to face the sound, though every instinct tells me run. There's nowhere left for us now. The mountains hold our memories, our family history. If home is where you're raised, then this is where we should be. I don't know the reason, I hear the echo of final sound, deadly thunder overhead as I fall upon the ground. Thunder again and again, my heart grows quiet as bullets rain. I thought I had more seasons, more rivers left to roam, more sunrises with my Kosciuszko clan before the mountains called me home. Tell them I was born here, my grandfathers fought their wars. Remind them that this was our home, the snowy mountains were ours. Tell my foal I knew her fear, tell my mare I heard her call, tell my foal I tried to save them, tell the wind how Brumbies fall. Tell my foal I kept on running, tell my mare I heard her cry, tell the mountain I belonged here, tell the wind I said goodbye.